Good evening, all. Welcome to the Back Road. It's In Between Media's fantasy NASCAR betting show. We are back, and boys, it is the round of 8. We are getting close to the end. We are getting to the real nitty-gritty of the playoffs here. Elliot Hicks here with you as always, and we got our main crew here tonight. We got Seth Woolcock and Rod Villagomez. Guys, how's it going tonight?
It's going fantastic tonight, guys. I can't believe we're almost here at the conclusion of the NASCAR season. It's been a whirlwind, but I'm excited to be back here with you guys. Rod, how are you doing out there on the West Coast tonight, my friend?
It just feels like yesterday that we were talking about the clash, right, at the Coliseum and getting all hyped up for the season. And here we are about to put it to bed, but not before there's a lot of kicking and screaming. I'll tell you that much right now.
Certainly a lot of kicking and screaming left, and a lot of kicking and screaming that's happened the last couple of weeks. So let's take a look back in the rear view. So in our last show, I remember we were talking about all of the chaos that the previous races had brought and how Talladega was going to be just as nuts, right? Somehow it was about the calmest race of the playoffs. We only had one big incident, and it's Chase Elliott that ends up winning, a very pedestrian winner this season. What is that, 6 wins for him now? He's been the dominant guy. And then at the Roval, the racing not so great, another potential next-gen car issue. But we did have the late drama, and Christopher Bell gets the walk-off win that he needed to get in the playoffs and eliminate Kyle Larson, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, and Alex Bowman. We can talk about these guys for just a second. With a guy like Bowman, and you feel bad for Kurt Busch, and I feel bad for Cody Ware even having to miss a race too, even though he's not a playoff guy. But just to see these relatively pedestrian hits to the rear end of the car knock 2 guys out, probably for the rest of the season in both cases with concussions, certainly a killer way to have your championship hopes end, that's for sure. But, yeah, I mean, what did you guys think of these races? Not quite as chaotic as we thought, and how'd your bets go?
Man, Dega sucked, Rod. Am I right? Like Dega, I was expecting just all-out chaos coming into this one. Like, Daytona was so unpredictable here earlier in the fall, and I was expecting something similar at Dega. But honestly, like, this was kind of a snooze fest, so I was pretty bummed out by that. Not a lot of wrecks, not a lot of these guys who are at the bottom of the odds list moving up, getting those DK points as well. So I was kind of disappointed with Dega, if we're being honest, boys.
Yeah, Cody and I ripped up our bet slips. We weren't very thrilled about how that shaped out. I mean, we were planning for utter and absolute chaos because what signaled that this was going to be a nice, quiet Talladega race? Like nothing. Nothing signaled that at all. So we had to plan for it. So now we're just going to plan for chaos and then plan for no chaos. So we'll present both cases when it happens. But yeah, I mean, Talladega, what can you say? I mean, that's one that just kind of sneaks up on you and you got to roll with it.
Yeah, and that was tough to call when we did our show, obviously. But I think that Bowman missing with the concussion, a lot of guys were worried. You know, we saw Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick speak out about how the problems with this car might have them race a little differently. So I think that probably helped at Talladega to keep it calm, not wanting anybody to get hurt unnecessarily. Go ahead, Seth.
I mean, I think like the back roads, like I'm not trying to put any bad juju out there, but I think I'm a little bit cursed at least because I've been on the second place driver this fall about 6 times, and it is all out frustrating. Cindric back at Daytona, here in Talladega, I was all over Blaney, boys. I call him as my outright on the show, plus 1,000. Go into here. I also was all over Penske to win this, whether it was him or Logano, plus 300. Feeling good. Feeling real good about it. Comes down to it. I knew as soon as Chase Elliott passed Eric Jones there on the right side, I knew my bet was out the door. But I was just utterly just floored that like we had really good luck earlier in the season. Like Elliott, I thought bets were hitting, DK lines were hitting. And then lately, like, it's just these like last lap passes, which is insane. But yeah, it didn't go our way in Talladega. We missed there. We hit half of our Chase and Bubba for a top 5 for plus 1,000, but Bubba didn't come through for us there. We did hit a nice little parlay over there on the player prop section. Cindric over Bell and then Chase over Byron. So we did come out some plus money on that one. But just so sad to see like these outrights go so close, and they're not hitting, Rod.
No, and again with Talladega, we definitely said that we were anticipating something to happen, and when they strung out single file there toward the end of the third stage, I knew that we weren't in for anything, because I knew those guys were just riding around. Nobody wanted to rock the boat. Nobody wanted to start that second line. Hell, nobody wanted to start that third line until they got close enough to where it was going to matter. So, I mean, what can you do at that point? And then even in the Xfinity race, it's the same thing. They didn't start it till late anyways, and it's too late. So, yeah, I mean, whatever. That's why it's in the review, right? We're done.
Yeah. I will say Mark was on with us for Talladega, and he was the one kind of coming out and saying, hey, I'm placing a little bit of parlay action for the Xfinity, for the truck, and for the Cup Series, and he wasn't too far away from hitting it. He won about 10K on the truck race, Matthew DeBenedetto. So Matty D came through for him in a big way.
Matt DeBenedetto,
everybody's hero.
Yeah, that was super fun. And I mean, you got whatever you think of his personal opinions, you gotta admire the drive from that guy. Makes it all the way to the top, comes so close so many times, finally gets that top 3 series win.
Yeah. So, I mean, Dega was cool for, like, I was happy for Mark. He was on the show that week. So it was cool to, kind of see him cash a little bit, hear some of his advice come true there. So that was awesome. Roval was a little bit disappointing too, boys. Honestly, like, the Roval's always one of my favorite tracks. And, like, here it just kind of felt pretty boring. And, say what you want about that late caution, but I thought, okay, maybe this is at least, some time for a little bit of action. And outside of the whole Chase Briscoe and the Kyle Larson drama, Austin Cindric happening there, the race for the lead was pretty much over as soon as it went green there. So that was a bummer as well, guys.
I don't know. I loved the Roval. In fact, I had a lot of green on that Roval, and not just from the Cup Series too, but the Xfinity Series with Dinger winning the whole thing. That was a blast. But I had Kevin Harvick as the top Ford. That was at plus 700. That cashed.
There you go.
I had Allmendinger as a top 10 in the Cup Series as well. That cash. I almost thought Dinger was going to win the whole damn thing this week as well in the Cup as well. So I don't know. I had a lot of fun watching it. Yeah, it was irritating at points. But I think just the simple fact of where my bets had lined up, I had fun watching the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just need to stop betting the outrights here, boys, because they're not hitting really too much lately. I was on McDowell, I was on Cindric that week, a little bit lower odds, but we were on Dinger last week. Elliot, you kind of talked in your column, you were back in Dinger. You convinced me to go for the top 5 plus 130 as well. So, kind of broke even these last 2 races, some highs and some lows, but overall, like, I'm excited for this round of 8 because I do think, like, at the end of the day, possibly the 8 best cars made it in. Say what you want about Larson, but Chase Briscoe, I think, deserved to be in this top 8. So I'm excited to see him.
I mean, it's tough with my driver of choice being knocked out, not able to go through those couple of races. But we'll save that conversation for another day. But hey, heck of a plug there, Seth, for my column Through the Field. On Tuesdays when we don't do the back road, you can read my column Through the Field, get your betting advice. And yeah, Allmendinger, I was high on him, announcing he's going back to the Cup Series full time. Why not have a nice coming out party to come back into the Cup Series, and was able to get that top 5 at the Roval and come pretty darn close. But hey, we'll start to look ahead now. We got a special segment of Tire Tiers right ahead. So we're down to just the last 8 drivers, obviously, in the playoffs. So we figured instead of splitting it up into like tiers of 2 or the tier system we'd previously done, we're going to do a little bit of a draft here. So we got 3 people. We're going to do 3 drivers apiece and then have the field, but that seemed a little too stacked. So we're going to go, obviously, the 8 playoff drivers. All of them have to go off the board at some point. And then we'll have an extra 4 selections of non-playoff drivers. That way to give us each 4 drivers there. So we did a random draw beforehand, or did we have any other comments here before we went to get started?
But basically, this is for the round of 8. So these are the next 3 races. So if you have any of the guys outside the playoffs that you think could hit an outright, you think could have big performances, that's what we're kind of looking for here. This can apply to DFS. This can apply to betting. If you're doing any like redraft season-long stuff and have a redraft coming up soon, this can apply to that as well. But I think you pretty much hit it here, Elliot. Like, these are the drivers we're confident in, and it's a little bit different from our normal tier, but we thought we'd shake it up here on a nice little Tuesday evening for you guys.
Yeah, this should be fun. So this was a random draw that we did beforehand. I got the first pick, then it'll be Rod, and then it'll be Seth for 4 rounds. So taking pick number 1 here, I mean, how could you not go with Chase Elliott? I mean, he's been the dominant guy. Hendrick Motorsports, they had all 4 cars in the playoffs, and half of them got slashed out this round. So the 9 and the 24 are going to be getting basically the full attention of what's been the best team in the garage this year. You got to go with Chase.
In fact, you do have to go with Chase, which is why I knew you were going to go to Chase. So that's why I ended up going. I'm going to go ahead and take Ross Chastain. The shine is off the apple here. I get it. But you look at what Chastain's done at these 1.5 mile tracks. Vegas, he finished second. Kansas, he finished third. Charlotte, he finished second. Kansas, the second time around, finished ninth. Texas, 11th. I mean, circling that top 10, obviously not the most classic of drivers lately, but he did have a top 10 in that ridiculousness that was Charlotte last week and his 6th place at Charlotte. So, I mean, he kind of got put in the corner a little bit toward the middle of the season just because of how he started to drive. But now you even heard it in his team and in what he's saying too. He's just going to drive his races now. I mean, he knows he's pissed some people off. He knows he's got enemies, but he can't change now. And in fact, he's got a championship in sight. All he's got to do is probably win Phoenix. So, you know, it's just a matter of can he get there? And I think Ross is going to push it now with a few races left to get there. So I think it starts this week at a track he's pretty good at.
There you go, Rod. Sniping me already. It's round 1 here. I thought for sure. I said, there's no way. I said, there's no way Rod comes in here and takes Ross Chastain in the first round, because I was reading exactly what you were, Rod. He's picking up a little bit of steam here. He's finally kind of getting the wheels under him, getting that speed back that he had early in the season. He's been awesome at 1.5 miles, specifically Vegas, too. That was actually the track I thought he could come away with a victory on. So disappointing to see him go. However, I'm going to come back with the most active driver who has the best average finish position at Las Vegas here, and that's Joey Logano. He's been very consistent here throughout the playoffs. I think he's going to continue to be consistent as well. So I'm going to go here with Joey Logano. Old glasses, fire him up here, Mr. Spectacles. And Elliot, are we doing a serpentine or a snake here?
Good question. I'll leave it up to majority vote here. What do you guys think?
Seth just wants the next pick.
We'll throw it back to you, Elliot. We'll do a linear draft here. We'll do an old-fashioned NFL draft here.
We'll keep it simple for the viewers here tonight. All right. So with my pick, I'm going to go 2 for 2 with guys who are the smart picks. I don't personally want to see them win the title, but I'm going to go Denny Hamlin as my pick here. I've done nothing but crap on Denny Hamlin for his inconsistencies last year, not getting a win till the playoffs. I've harped on him for not ever getting to winning that championship. He's been inconsistent some this year, had a pretty crummy start. He's done nothing but just be consistent. He's had the good runs. He's made it through the playoffs without controversy, without a whole lot of trouble. And I think he's going to get back to the championship 4. So I'm going to take him.
I like it. I like it so much that I was going to take it myself, but now I guess I'm not. All right. We don't have to stay in the championship 8 right now, do we? We can.
No, we don't.
Here's what I figured: we want all 8 of them to get picked at some point, but not all in that order.
Okay, good, because I don't necessarily want to stay within that. I want to actually pick Tyler Reddick as my next pick here in that 8 car.
Love it.
I mean, look, not too good to start out. He was 13th place in Vegas, 15th in Kansas, but he started to light it up a little bit. Charlotte, he was 3rd. Then in Kansas, he won, and then in Texas, he finished 4th. So. I mean, his average speed rank, according to our guys on iFantasyRace.com, is 7.2 on the list. So that's a hell of a good ranking for him. And look, Reddick has not necessarily been that bad lately. In fact, if you look at the string since Watkins Glen, he's only finished outside of the top 10 once. And really in that span, it's been a majority of top 5 finishes. Watkins Glen 5th, Daytona 6th. Okay. Darlington 4th, Kansas 1st. Bristol 17th, Texas 4th, Dega 8th, Charlotte 4th. So he's actually been on a tear since he got booted from the playoffs.
All right. I like that pick. I honestly was not expecting Ryan Blaney to get back to me here at the 302, and I'm really excited he came back to me. I mean, guys, Ryan Blaney, he might not win. He might not win this season, but he might find his way into the Final Four somehow, one way or another. You look at it like Vegas alone, guys. He's coming into this race still as one of the top drivers in Vegas history. Right now, he's an average finishing position of 11.1, 8 of his 12 races. So 75% of the time, he's finishing inside the top 10 here. 5 out of his 12 races, he's finishing inside the top 5. So I think he's going to have a good run here at Vegas. And then 2 races later, Martinsville. He is the best current driver at Martinsville as well, my friends. Current average finish position of 10.2. Over half his races, he's been in the top 5. So he's been electric here as of lately as well. And he's been 2 out of his last 3 races here in the playoffs have been top 5. So I'm riding the Ryan Blaney train here, guys, all the way to the bank. I can't believe he got back to me. And man, I've been so close to hitting this outright on Blaney for weeks now. And I'm going to chase it one more time at least, I think. I think at least one more week you got to chase it. And I think it happens possibly here at Las Vegas.
Well, here's hoping it works out for you, Seth, but have fun losing that money on the outright.
Yeah.
All right, so I picked the guy who I said was the hottest driver, Chase Elliott. If he's not the hottest driver, the 20 of Christopher Bell is. He ran extremely well in the round of 16, had a little bit of bad luck in the round of 12. People kind of cooled off on him. He needed to get that win, and he wasn't going to be able to point his way in. Goes to the Roval. They play the strategy right. They get lucky with an ad board side coming off to make a debris caution. They get it done. And I think Christopher Bell going to run strong, and we could see a JGR Toyota double in that championship 4. I'm liking Chris Bell.
I like that pick. I like it because, spoiler alert, there's something about Gibbs coming up later on in the show too. So I think Gibbs is going to have a pretty strong run. And you've got the 2 good Gibbs drivers in this. So I think you're looking pretty good if Gibbs has a good week this week as well. So I like where your head's at. I almost took Bell. I'm glad I got sniped because I'll just go ahead and take Kyle Larson. You know, look at a pissed off Kyle Larson is probably more dangerous than anything. And now he's out. Now, what does he have to lose now? He doesn't have to worry about points. He doesn't have to worry about running position. He doesn't have to worry about any of that now. Now Kyle Larson could just go out and drive pissed. And Kyle Larson started out the season not good, but even at 1.5 miles, he's actually been all right. 5th at Vegas, 4th in Kansas, 13th at Charlotte, and 11th in Kansas again. But 5th place in Texas. I just, like I said, I think a pissed off Kyle Larson is worth it. And I mean, you talk about top 10 finishes. Like this guy had a string of top 10 finishes broken last week at Charlotte. Finished 2nd in Talladega, 9th at Texas, 5th at Bristol, 7th at Kansas. Like it goes on and on and on and on, right? So I'm good with Kyle Larson. I want to see him actually get back into the winner's circle to stick it to everybody that kind of wrote him off after he got dropped.
It makes sense, Rod. I cannot believe that he's out here going into the round of 8. I don't think any of us predicted that. And looking back at last week's tiers, or 2 weeks ago tiers, we got every single one of these top 8 right except for Chase Briscoe. We had Larson in there. We had Briscoe at the bottom of our tier. But I'm going to show Briscoe a little bit of respect here. I'm going to take him right now. And guys, I know what you're saying. Oh, Briscoe was terrible here in Vegas. He finished in the 30s in the springtime. Well, guys, he wrecked out. It was a DNF. And before that, he got some stage points earlier on in that race. He finished that first stage inside the top 10. So I'm going to ride him here heading into Vegas. And I think he's just on a hot streak right now. 3 top 10s for the guy. What can you say? And you could say, yeah, maybe Cole Custer helped him out a little bit here on Sunday to inflate that stat, Seth.
NASCAR,
whatever. I'm going to ride the momentum. Like, I would not be surprised if Chase Briscoe somehow ends up in this top 4. Like, I know it might be crazy. It might take a win out of him, but I think he's got the momentum on his side. And I love to see it because, Elliot, about 2 years ago when we started this show, I was a big Chase Briscoe guy, and he kind of disappointed me his rookie year. And this year he's slowly kind of, come back in my graces. So I'm going to go Chase Briscoe here, thinking that he can ride this hot streak into Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, I was down on him earlier in the show about thinking he was not one of the best 8. But again, the thing in the playoffs in any sport, it's not always the best 8, the best 4, the best 2 that are going to end up moving on. It's who gets hot and who performs at the right time. So I'm definitely liking that Briscoe pick. So the only playoff guy left on the board is William Byron. I'm going to go ahead and swerve him, though. Rod, I liked what you were saying about Kyle Larson, about how he's out of the playoffs now, doesn't have to worry about points, doesn't have to worry about anything. That guy is going to be Daniel Suarez as well. He was in a position where he could have moved on, was going to have, it would have been a relatively easy day as long as he didn't have any trouble at the Roval. Unfortunately, he had trouble. He, worked his ass off to keep the car rolling all day. They were trying to fix it up. Didn't quite happen for him. But here in his post-race comments, he basically said, I'm the toughest MFer in the field. No other driver could have done this race the way I did it. And he's going to be a very angry amigo the rest of the year. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him rip off some good finishes here in the round of 8 and potentially in that Championship 4 race be one of the best of the rest to end the season on a high note for that 99 team.
Hide your pinatas, man. He's coming for him. Like literally, that's all there is to it. He just wants to win and win out. Although I will say, AJ Allmendinger would like to have a word with him if that, no other driver could do it. Hell, he did it. Yeah. He did it around Sonoma with no power steering for longer.
No, I'm sure others could, but I love the confidence from Suarez.
I get it. Absolutely. All right, Elliot, I'm glad you did that because you saved me from having to take Martin Truex Jr. Because that's exactly where I was going with that. But I will take William Byron.
Thank God.
And look, Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, Seth, we knew you didn't want him.
For all that Martin Truex Jr. sucks, listen to his finishes. 3rd in Vegas, 6th in Kansas, 13th at Charlotte, 4th at Kansas again, 3rd in Texas. Martin Truex Jr. has been horrible, but he's actually been okay on 1.5-mile tracks this season. So anyways, regardless of that, William Byron still just as good. 7th in Vegas, 11th in Kansas, 5th at Charlotte, 9th in Kansas, and then 2nd in Texas. Has a pretty decent string of top 10s going where you look at, 5 of the last 6 as a top 10. You can even go back a couple more of that, 7 of the last 9 top 10 finishes and a bunch of top 5s in there as well. So, I mean, look, William Byron quietly is putting together a hell of a run for this championship. So you probably shouldn't count him out, especially here on this track as well.
Yeah, you know how I feel about William Byron, Rod, but I respect the pick nonetheless. We miss you, Jeff. I wish Jeff was still in that 24 tearing it up, but to my last, he is not. So I'm going to counter your William Byron with a Kyle Busch pick, and I get it. Kyle Busch has been awful this back half of the season. Inconsistent finishes. The last couple races have been no short of that. But I'm going with the track history here. He has a top 11 average finish position at Martinsville, at Las Vegas as well. I think there's still a chance that Kyle Busch maybe goes out here at the end of the season, winning one of these last couple tracks, getting that final win with JGR. So Kyle Busch is probably the last. Like, it was between him and Kevin Harvick. I like what Kevin Harvick's been laying out there too. So it was one of those veteran guys who didn't quite make it this far in the season. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Rowdy here, hoping he can get one more for the M&M's guys.
Home track for him too. So
yeah.
Yes, sir.
And was it Vegas or Atlanta that he got the first win for Toyota back in 08 or 09?
I believe that was Vegas.
Yeah, so it'd be a heck of a way. Go in with the first win for that M&M's 18 and go out with another one. I think you ran the Snickers car that day.
Let's go, baby. First time being a Rowdy fan. It's time.
Yeah, so we'll save this. We'll come back in the next show or in the last show, and we'll see how we round out here. But I feel pretty good about my team. I'm sure you guys feel pretty good about yours.
I say Elliot will take his victory lap because he's got all the safe drivers in there.
Yeah.
I got one safe driver. But we'll see.
I like Rod's strategy, though, of going two of his first 3 picks were non-playoff drivers. And that's a trend we've seen lately. We've seen these guys do well. So Reddick, Kyle Larson, I think that's an interesting angle you took there, Rod. But I'm excited to see how that plays out.
I zig when they zag.
Yeah.
Yes,
I just thought of this, too. If we ever do a draft again, we'll have to do something like this. We should have done a 5th round of guys who were outside of the 16 that made the playoffs to start with. See if any of those guys could come in since they did so well in the early part of the playoffs here. But we'll keep that one in the notebook for next time. For now, we'll move on to the parking garage props. All right, so it looks like we got the Draftkings odds here for that South Point 400. Denny Hamlin, the outright favorite, plus 550. Christopher Bell not far behind. Then you got Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson. Good non-playoff picks there. Rod, I almost said Ross because Ross Chastain is next at plus 900, even odds with Reddick and Larson. Then you got Ryan Blaney at plus 1,000. So we were talking a little bit pre-show. It sounds like you guys are not that hot on these outrights.
I mean, we just had a really good week, I thought, at the Roval. I wasn't on Christopher Bell, but all the outrights were pretty generous the last couple of weeks. And to come into this race and have him have Denny Hamlin at plus 550, that's just way too short for me to be taking a gamble on it. I don't know, Rod. I felt like the books did a really good job. Me not even every week I kind of ration, okay, how much am I going on NASCAR? How much am I going on NFL and college football? And this was one of those weeks like, okay, well, the books are telling me I guess I'm playing those other sports more this week.
It's not even really the head-to-head or the outrights that were were discouraging. It was the head-to-heads, to be honest with you. Like, honestly, I was looking at these head-to-heads, and a lot of them were juiced to the point where I was like, okay, well, I don't want to take a stab on this. But yeah, 550 for Hamlin. We always talk about value on the NASCAR gambling podcast as far as value betting the favorites. This is not a week where you get value out of betting the favorites. 5-1, 5.5-1. It's okay. I mean, if he wins, that's great because you win money. But I don't know what we've seen the last few weeks. It almost feels like you shouldn't bet on favorite and put that much on it because who knows what's going to happen at the end. So I like Hamlin. Don't get me wrong, but by the same token, I don't know if I can, by all rights and accounts, say put a lot of money on that as an outright.
Yeah, especially when you look at Hamlin's performance here in the spring, it wasn't great at all. So like it's hard to have faith and hard to see what they're seeing here. I know he has a great, track history here at Vegas, but just way too short of odds for almost everyone on this list. Like if I am taking a stab at an outright, which I'm going to, like I said earlier, I'm going to ride the Ryan Blaney train just because I have been, and I think he's going to get a win at some point. So at plus 1,000, I don't hate that for Blaney. He's been really good at Vegas. And Ross Chastain at plus 900, it's okay. Like I'm not going out and putting more than a unit on it at all. I'm talking maybe a half unit, maybe a quarter unit. I'm talking low stakes here, but yeah, I just did not like those. And even like the top 3 and the top 5s, I was not as impressed either, Rod.
Yeah, no, top 5 is top 10 is definitely not a stay away for pretty much all of them this week. It's horrible. You don't even get to plus odds until you get to Kevin Harvick at plus 100. Chase Briscoe's a plus 100. And after that, it's like, do you really want to bet Todd Gilliland as a top 10 at plus 2,000? I don't think so.
It was insane. The top 10 was probably the most discouraging part of all of it, was just seeing how short the odds were for some of them. And yeah, to take plus money at some of these guys, you got to take your shot on a couple of these this week, and I'll have some for him. But just overall, this was probably one of the weeks I was really discouraged by what the books were handing out here, Rod, across all of them.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I would still probably end up sprinkling something on Hamlin, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I felt dirty picking a winner this week, to be honest with you.
All right, Rod. Well, fire us off with any bets, because normally we kind of start here with our favorite outrights, move to the top 10, top 5, and then move to matchups. But what do you have for us? Let's just kind of bounce back and forth here between the two of us. Elliot, please chirp in as well.
Well, so I'm not doing the traditional for this show. I want to be special. I want to give you guys some special fun bets to bet. And this one, the two that I've given you are actually ones that I think have a really good shot at hitting. And I'm going to start out with Gibbs as the winning manufacturer for this one at plus 185. Look, they've done it 2 out of the last 3 times, or actually not 2 of the last 3 times, but Hamlin did it in 2021 at this South Point. Truex did it in 2019 at this South Point as well. We talked about it. Hamlin has a decent string of top 5s here as well. He's within striking distance, so I can see the plus 550 why his odds are so short to win, because he does stand a pretty good shot at winning. Plus, it gives you Christopher Bell, as an added bonus in there, because you just saw him win too. Maybe the momentum carries. So I like having 3 different cars at plus 185 to be able to KFB.
Yes,
and Kyle Busch too. You're right. Absolutely Kyle Busch, because it is his home track. And, you can definitely do well to put money on that as well. So I like Gibbs Racing. Give me all 4 cars at plus 185.
I like that. I like that a lot, Rod. That's when you kind of factor in the Kyle Busch thing, and then Chris Bell's been running great. Denny Hamlin, obviously the favorite here for a reason. That's a very nice, smart bet there. Yeah, I think if it's not Toyota, if it's not Joe Gibbs week, I think it might be a Chevy week. Going back to the spring race, 7 of the top 10 here, guys, they were Chevrolets in the finishing. Top 3 were Chevy as well. Chevy's also won 5 out of the last 8 Cup Series races here in the Cup Series in the playoffs. So I'm looking at Chevy's to finish 1 and 2 here, plus 400, a little bit longer of odds, and then Chevy to win plus 120. So if you I think that's very generous odds considering how good Chevy's been. I wasn't even expecting that at plus money here as well.
Yeah, I kind of like that, honestly.
I was like, Elliot?
One thing I do want to throw out is what you guys have done with these substitute drivers that we've had. We've talked about the injuries keeping guys out. Have you guys have put any thoughts on Ty Gibbs in that 23 or Noah Gragson in the 48, or just kind of they're off to the side? You're not really. I don't even know if the books are really involving them in these head-to-heads or that sort of thing.
I just can't. I just haven't seen enough consistency out of either of those guys in the Cup Series. Like if maybe we were going to a super speedway here in the next couple of weeks, I would consider something with Noah Gragson, but that's really where I see him being a value. Ty Gibbs has kind of been back and forth, but it's hard to really put anything out there on him consistently with him being so up and down as well, Rod.
Yeah, Gibbs would be the one, if anything, because Gragson, he's still got in fact, the fact that he got shuffled around, right, from into the 48 now, it's great equipment, but he just hasn't been able to put it together right now. So if anything, I'd put something on Gibbs, but not now, not right now. He's he's proven that he's got too much going. Plus, he's still racing for an Xfinity championship. So you see how that,
same with Gragson too. So.
Yeah, you see how that split attention has gotten Gibbs down even in Xfinity. So it's impacted him there. So he's obviously not putting his full attention into the Cup race every week either. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Gregson's on the record as saying that he's not racing 100% because he doesn't want to get hurt for the Xfinity deal. So as for why he's a sub driver, I like he's getting the experience. And he'll have one of the better looking cars out there, fan-designed Ally 48 paint scheme, some bats and some lightning on there. Looks like something you'd create in the EA Sports paint booth. So yeah, I think it'll look good, but I agree. I don't think either of those guys are really worth betting on. I was just curious how you guys are playing them because it's something you don't often see even in one car in the sport, let alone in multiple cars the last couple of weeks.
And the books aren't really approaching them either. They're not in a lot of Cup head-to-heads or Cup bets at all.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they're definitely kind of a stay away for us, and I think the books are feeling the same here. Just not a lot of value there. Rod, what is your next value pick, though, here as we enter the weekend?
Well, I'm going to give you the car winning number under 11.5. This one came in at about 124. I found it. You could shop around for that as well. But 2022, the second place car was Larson. Bowman's not in the race anymore. So in Vegas, the second place car was a 5. In 2021, Hamlin won this race, obviously number 11, who was second place. Chase Elliott, number 9. In 2021, in the spring, Larson won this, and Brad Keselowski, driving that 2 car, was second. Go back to 2020, Kurt Busch, driving in the 1 car, won this race. Yep. So that's a lot of history of cars under an 11.5 winning this race, or at the very least coming in second to it. So I like this to continue with all the cars that are good, right? That gives you Reddick, that gives you Chastain, that gives you Cindric. If for some reason he warps through a Mario style warp and gets to the front, and it gives you Dillon too.
Yeah. On a week where you guys really aren't liking much of what the books are throwing out, throw something at a prop bet like you'd see in, how long is the national anthem going to be at the Super Bowl? May as well throw a little bit on that.
That's got to be one of the most interesting. Where'd you find that at, Rod? What sportsbook was that?
That's BetMGM.
Okay. I don't really venture out to them, but that sounds like a really intriguing one there. I like that.
Or wait, was that Barstool or BetMGM?
I was gonna say Barstool would be zany enough to do something like that. BetMGM has been really involved in NASCAR. They've had sponsorship with the RCR guys, so that would be cool to see if it was them that did it. But Barstool, I would expect anything, so it wouldn't surprise me there.
Absolutely. As Rod kind of confirms that, guys, I will move on to my next bet of the weekend, and it's Eric Almirola for a top 10 at plus 300. I thought those, for a week where all the top 10 odds were as bad as they were, Almirola kind of stuck out to me. Finished 6th here in the spring. He has a 22% top 10 rate here at Las Vegas, so this is one of his better tracks. And he's coming off back-to-back top 15 finishes for the first time in a while this year. He hasn't really ran so great this summer, this fall, but he really kind of bounced back here in the last 2 tracks. So I'm taking that recent speed with the overall performance here at Las Vegas this season throughout his career. And again, this isn't a big unit bet. It's maybe a half a unit to unit bet. But I don't mind Eric Almirola here for our top 10 boys.
That's not bad. I don't hate that. For sure.
I was reaching around for that one too, because I did see his name pop up quite a bit in the rolls towards the top of this track in Vegas. So I like that. Anything can happen, man. We've literally seen anything happen over these last few weeks. So I always try to say I don't know, but yeah, you can't even do that anymore.
One more that I like here too, like this is one I just think the odds are a little out of whack on, and I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit. Like, again, this is a half unit bet, nothing crazy here. But Ross plus 145 over Hamlin minus 165. I think those are really generous odds for Ross. He was strong here in the spring. As we mentioned, Hamlin, he didn't finish in the spring. He does have that top 10, 50% rate, though. So he is going to be consistent. He's probably going to be running towards the front. I just think Ross has looked better lately. Ross has had more speed. Like, obviously, it kind of didn't pan out here over the weekend with some of those issues that Trackhouse faced, but I like Ross going in the weekend at plus 145. I think it's at least worth a little bit of a risk. What do you think on that one, Rod?
It's definitely worth the risk, and it's definitely an underdog for a reason, just considering the fact that this is the early rivalry. This was one of the first rivalries on the track.
Yeah.
So, and they've left each other alone for the most part. But now, Hamlin, this is getting to the point now where if we're thinking about payback, this would be the perfect chance to pay somebody back, to be honest with you.
Oh, I would be heartbroken. I was thinking, I don't think they can, though. They did a really good job talking about this on the NASCAR gambling podcast last week with Derek and those guys. And I don't think Hamlin can pay someone back now after he just came out the last couple of weeks and said, hey, we got to be safer in the car. Mm-hmm. I think all that kind of goes out of the window. All the beefs you've seen with him and Byron, him and Chastain, I think they kind of go out the window at this point. If he wanted to get him back, I think the time's passed, in my opinion. I could be wrong on that. You could be right, Rod. He could have that list, right next to the steering wheel, getting ready to check him off. But I hope that is not the case. I think that's not the case after what we've seen, just with these issues in the Cup cars, which is just really sad to see.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I'm liking this bet. I think that, Denny Hamlin, the car owner, Denny Hamlin, the logical guy standing outside the car talking to the media, is going to talk that way. But him, if, it's Ross and Denny racing up near the front, chopping it up, and they start to get a little racy, maybe Denny kind of loses his head, gives him that payback. We all know it is well-deserved. But another thing, too, I feel like Ross Chastain, he's been the raging bull this season.
Yeah.
He's been reined in the pen the last couple of playoff rounds because he had enough playoff points and enough consistency with that team to make it through this round and make it through the next round. The championship 4 is in his sights. You got to take that red cloth and you got to see how fast that bull can run and let him out of the pen, so to speak. So I think Chastain will go balls to the wall to try to get to the front. Whether he runs into somebody, yet to be seen. Whether somebody runs over him, yet to be seen. But on the surface, I like this bet as well.
I'm sure he feels how close he was, though, to not having it. If he wouldn't have got back on that track last week, he may have been on the outside looking in, too. So he knows it. He knows he's lucky that he was able to keep going and to get in the next round.
Agreed. Rod, before we round it out here, any final bets that you're keying in on, or any final betting advice that you can give our listeners tonight?
Have fun on this one. And I will say that last one was Barstool. It was a good bet.
Okay. Awesome.
But look, we've now seen a couple of races in a row where, if you bet heavy, you're going to be in a very bad mood. So just pick the bets that you want to have fun with this week. This could probably be especially if you took a big hit in Talladega and in the Roval last week. Take a deep breath. Like just sit there and sprinkle a little bit on stuff. Seth hit it perfectly. This is not a heavy bet weekend. This is just a go at it because this is a mile and a half. So obviously it's probably not going to be as chaotic as the last couple of weeks have been. So, put a couple of bets on ones you want to cheer for and just catch your breath before we go at it again pretty heavy in the next few weeks.
Completely agree with you here, Rob. Before we move forward, though, I did want to address this question here from Stan in the chat. What's up, Stan? Hope you're having a great Tuesday. We appreciate you tuning in with us. Great to see some new faces in the chat. Anyone here like Logano plus 130 versus Elliott? This is another one where Elliott's been on a heater, but again, going back to Joey Logano, he is the best average finish position here among drivers. He wasn't great in the spring here. That's why it gives me a little bit of doubt, but I don't mind that at plus money as well. Elliott, I think, has just been so strong lately. I think that's kind of why the books are hanging on to him such as a favorite in this matchup. But Rod, Elliott, any thoughts on this matchup here that Stan's pointing out to us?
It's really tough to take anybody over Elliott at this point, just from the simple fact that I think he's heating up again. and when you have a guy like Chase Elliott who knows that he used up every mulligan he ever had going into these first few rounds, like literally, I don't think he wants to do that again. Whereas Logano in head-to-heads, it's been kind of off and on for him. But yeah, I mean, I still like Elliott this week over Logano. I think that 9 car is too powerful, and I like the 22. I do like Logano, but every time I bet in a head-to-head with him, he's always come up on the short end of it. So maybe I'm just stung a little bit too much.
Okay. Rod's a little hurt from Logano. He's going to stay away from him this week. But we love the question, Stan. We hope you tune back into our next episode of The Back Row as well. Subscribe, like this video. We appreciate you here in the chat. Elliot, any thoughts on this one for yourself, man?
As my little money hand gesture, I like it. I like Chase Elliott. Obviously, he's getting hotter. But Joey Logano's been so good here. And I think kind of similar to what I said about Chastain, Logano is, he's still got a little bit of that youth fire in him to go and chase another championship. So I like this matchup at plus money for sure.
All right. Guys, why don't we round it out just doing some general predictions. Let's quickly do some rapid fire around the room here. Who are your final 4? We were very close here. We did a good job, I think, getting to the round of 8. Rod, why don't you take us home with your final 4 prediction?
I think it is Elliott, Logano, Chastain, and Hamlin.
Okay.
All right. I will go with Chastain, Chris Bell, Logano, and Chase. We'll keep it relatively pedestrian.
Okay. I'm going to follow you guys' lead here. Definitely love Elliott here. Definitely love Logano, what they've been doing the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to ride there. Chastain, I can't ditch my guy yet. I think he's got a really good shot these next 2 races. Martinsville kind of worries me, that being the last one on there for Ross. But I think he can do enough here in these first 2 races to set himself up for Martinsville. So I'm going to ride with those 3, same as Rod there. However, I'm going to go Ryan Blaney. I think Blaney has just been so consistent lately. I like Hamlin. I just don't think Hamlin has the consistency that Blaney has. I think if Hamlin gets in here, it's going to be from a win. And I just don't know if it comes here in the next couple races. I almost like Chris Bell more than I've liked Hamlin lately. Chris Bell's looked like the more consistent Toyota, the more Toyota that has a chance of winning too. So, and honestly, I was very close to putting Briscoe in that top 4. Like, I just have a feeling like that's a gut feeling. There's not any statistics to back that one up. Other than I like the wave he's on. I want to ride those vibes with Chase Briscoe. But yeah, I'm going to take Blaney here. But guys, it seems like we're pretty consistent across the board. We're on Chastain, we're on Joey Logano, we're on Elliott, and then it's a differential of that last driver there.
Yeah, I think the most entertaining thing that could happen left is Ryan Blaney winning the title without winning a race. That would be a heck of a lot of fun. We almost saw Ryan Newman do that in 2014. All right, well, that'll about round out our show. Excuse me. Our back road advice this week is take all of our bets because we know that they're all going to hit like they always do here on the back road. So we got the In Between Fantasy Football podcast coming up here in about 12 minutes. We know where to find all our stuff here at Between Seth FF, at RJ Villa Gomez, at eHicks39. Find all the stuff here at IBT_media. Any quick plugs you guys want to get in before we get out of here?
Rod, plug your show because Rod is too humble. Rod has the #1 NASCAR gambling podcast right now in the industry. If you just search it, it's the first one that's going to come up, whether that's Google, whether that's iTunes. So, dude, plug the amazing work you and your guy Cody Z were doing over there, please, Rod.
Yeah, absolutely. The Sports Gambling Podcast Network was gracious enough to continue to give us our show. It is the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And yeah, Cody Zeeb and I, in fact, in 12 minutes, we'll be firing up the show for Tuesday and giving you all of our bets for Xfinity and for the Cup race this weekend as well. And I promise, listen, I'm sorry, guys, if you've listened to this whole thing and you've looked up the stats, in some of these finishes, I was reading the starting position on the NASCAR. I'm going to put up a picture. I have 15 screens across my whole thing, okay? But I'm still giving you, good advice. Just don't listen to where the finishing positions were because the drivers are still good. Jesus Christ, man. It's like my first time ever doing this. So in full transparency, so the trolls don't come out and say, you are making up stats, Rod. Yeah, I was, as a matter of fact, but they're still good. Take it for what it's worth.
Snuck it past both of us, so good job.
Well, and I've been told I say it with such conviction, so I suppose you can take it as you want. But anyways, yeah, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, I promise you that they're all still good bets, and every once in a while I do throw out some good advice.
Yeah, guys, definitely hit Rod and Cody up for some of those more bets in the green over there. Ellie and I, of course, are here over at In Between Media. He has his column coming out next week. It's a great read if you want a little lifestyle advice, a little NASCAR recap, and some of his bets, DFS plays heading into the week. Like Elliot said, too, we're going to be over on the In Between Fantasy Football podcast in just a couple minutes. So stay over here on the channel, subscribe, click back on the channel. You can see that video over there, and we'll be live. Elliot, Rod, I appreciate your time, guys. Appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Great to see so many new faces in the chat. Let's continue to build this NASCAR DFS and NASCAR gambling community, guys. We only have a couple weeks left of the awesome 2022 season, my friends.
Indeed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Stay tuned to In Between Media. Catch up on Rod's podcast. And hey, thanks again for rolling down the back road with us. We'll see you again for our next show in 2 weeks.
Peace, y'all.